And he's two-sided. Because there's the white part that a lot of us like to show everybody. Because that's good and awesome. That's the part we like everybody to see, right? That's the summer part. And then there's the black part, right? That we kind of like to keep under wraps. We tuck Mr. Blackie away a little bit. And, I was doing a lot of thinking about the equinox and researching. And there's a lot of pagan stuff about equinoxes that anybody can read on the internet. But to me, you guys know I'm a big word nerd, right? So when you get into equinox, it's about equality. And equals when you realize that the black parts and the white parts are just the same part. It's not two parts. There's only one part. But we split ourselves into two, like total psychos. And then we're like, oh my god, my black snake is showing. I have to flip over so I can see my black snake. Right? But then the black snake is beautiful. Beautiful black snake. And it was so funny because I was thinking about equality and revolution that's happening all over the place. Thank God. You guys know how many revolutions are going on right now? You guys know what's at the heart?
17.
17.
Something like that. Yeah.
Right. A lot. You guys know what's at the heart of most revolutions? Equality. Right? Because somebody is getting oppressed. And I was thinking about all this, and I went to the public library, because I go to the library. Do you guys go to the library? Am I a really nerd? And I rented this movie there called Amazing Grace. And it's a historical movie. It's really nerdy. Again, I go to the library and I rent an historical film. Do you guys know the hymn, Amazing Grace? Do you guys know where that came from?
Slave ship captain.
It was written, I love the nerds. It was written by a man who was the captain of a slave ship for years, a white man, a British man. And he saw, if you guys can imagine for like a second what a slave ship was. I know you guys all in like 6th grade, they have in the history book, you guys see those pictures, That's like about what our brain can contain of what a slave ship was. But try and think about like that slave ship and actually existing upon it, right? And so this man that wrote that song, Amazing Grace, after witnessing the slave ships for years, became a monk and decided to just leave everything and be a monk. And that was when he wrote that hymn, was in the moment of his repentance. And one of his choir boys grew up to be a member of parliament. And it was that man that was responsible for passing the abolition of the Slave Trade Act in Britain. That's unbelievable. It took him years, every year, he would go back with the same act to try to convince Parliament that the slave trade was inhumane. And it took him years to convince them of that fact. And you guys know one of the raddest things that he would do? He would get together these little cruises where he would get all the rich British people, and they'd have like people playing like cellos and music, and they'd have fancy food. And then he would steer the ship up to a slave ship that had just gotten in. That like 600 people had just died on, and only 200 people made it off of. And he would steer it right the fuck up to that ship. It's right? Okay? That's so awesome, I can't even believe it. And he would make them smell it. And he would try and put their handkerchiefs up to their nose. And he would make them smell it. Right? So that they could understand what was happening. And then, after that, I read the raddest thing in NPR, where there was this Islamic woman, and she was walking around in her neighborhood, and this dude comes up to her and he says, you need to cover your eyes. I can see part of your eyes. Because she was wearing a burqa, you know? You know, girls have to wear burqas.
Sure.
Yeah, what's her name? So, you know what she did? She said, you cover your eyes. And then she kicked his ass. in public. In public. But what you guys have to understand is it is legal, and they organize mobs of men to go and publicly beat women whose eyes are showing. So instead, she performed the same task upon him that was actually legally pursued upon women. And encouraged. And you guys, now she's on trial. She's facing charges. Can you guys imagine this man who got his ass kicked by a burqa-wearing woman in the middle of the street? She kicked him so bad he had to go to the hospital. Nice. And she said, you cover your eyes. You cover your eyes. Right? But this is the situation that we're in, and at this equinox, it's important to understand that people make slaves of each other. People make slaves of each other. Still. And people are making slaves of you right now. Right? A lot of this economic situation, you guys think you're not slaves? There's a lot of the black snake going around that nobody can see. Right? So at this equinox, I think it's really important for the entire Earth, now that we've just activated all that Earth energy, for us to understand and recognize what slavery is, so that black snake doesn't sneak up on you with it and make you part of it. Right? Every day, whether it happens in your bank, whether it happens at your work, whether it happens in your family, whether it happens in your relationship. You know, I think it just becomes really important to recognize that slavery happens because people like in the British Parliament just laugh because they're making money on sugar. And they laugh and say, it's cool to have slaves. This is what people say. They say it's cool. It's totally fine. They're making lots of money. So we have to remember that that kind of thing happens, and that people just think it's kind of cool to make slaves out of people. So when people do that in front of you, or try to make you into a slave, I think you should just tell them that they're fucked up. And recognize that you don't want to be made into a slave. And you don't think that it's cool for them to make other people a slave. And you can just go ahead and say so right in front of them. And you guys know why people don't do that is because they're afraid that, you know, you could get killed. You guys think it was easy for the Islamic woman to beat up that man? Do you know what happened in her head when she beat him up? She thought, okay, I'm going to die now. That's what was in her head. All right, I'm going to beat him up, and now I'm going to die. But I don't want to cover my eyes, so I'm just going to go ahead and die. And that's how a martyr happens. That's how people die martyrs. And a lot of people think dying a martyr is like a waste, or you're just giving in to something, you know. But if you don't want to cover up your eyes, and you're okay to die for that, I don't think there's anything weak in that at all, right? I think if you're willing to die to show people that it's not cool to make people into slaves, and you're not going to make little black children die in Jamaica at the sugar refineries because you want sugar in your tea so you can get diabetes. All those children, you know how many souls of black children are dead, and now what do we have? We have diabetes. That's what we have. Is that worth it? I don't know. What do you guys think?
No.
Well, it's
No.
a blood ritual. It takes blood to make the ritual actually take place.
Right.
So when they die in different places, we get these strange diseases.
Oh yeah.
So
As a result,
yes, it's a matter of
look at how many diseases incarnate as a result of sugar.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's karma. Guess what? Welcome to karma. So on this equinox, I'd like us all to take a moment, and we're all going to think about eradicating slavery in any way that we might participate in it. Maybe we've done it unknowingly by eating sugar. You know, this is what's happening. It's going on. So you have to look inside the dark parts as we get ready to shift from summer into winter. Because if you're not ready to look at those dark parts, guess what? They're going to kill you. So you look at the dark parts and it's okay. You just say, fuck you. And then you're fine. But if you don't, we're going to be killing children to make sugar. Okay? So we're all just going to take a little minute and we're going to think about slavery and how we're not going to have it anymore. And we're going to, hopefully there's enough of us here, we'll make a little prayer and that little shout out can help some people somewhere. Because you'd be surprised, right? It was one man, a single man, who heard the song Amazing Grace from his priest that abolished slavery in Great Britain. One guy was able to save tens of thousands of lives because he said, you can't make people slaves. And he refused to relinquish that. One man saying that over and over finally had the effect of stopping that, right? So you guys can think about how many people are here. That's like tens of thousands of people we can help, right? For every single one of you that's here. So we're going to take about 5 minutes and we're going to think about slaves.